I'm talking about unisex fragrances today, the best unisex fragrances of all time. I'm doing a video of 25 fragrances from the beginning of time to the latest releases. If you want to find out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, I talk a lot about unisex fragrances on the channel, but a lot of you like to make sure if you're a man, you're wearing a male targeted release. If you're a woman, you're wearing a ladies targeted release. As I always say, I don't have a problem wearing fragrances that are targeted to the opposite sex. I enjoy specific notes and I like smelling them, and I sometimes wear, not sometimes, a lot of times like wearing them as well. But in today's video, we are talking about some of the most amazing and most important, some of the best unisex fragrances. These are specifically targeted unisex, so they are for men and women. So let's go ahead and get started with the list. We're going to a very, very old classic and also a very light fragrance, to the house of MAURER and WIRTZ, and this is 4711, the original eau de cologne, this one right here. So if you don't know this one, I think you're going to know this one because this one's been around forever. It's a German fragrance, and this fragrance is sold at, German drugstores and things like that, and it's very inexpensive. It's also very light. It's citruses and aromatics together along with citrus flowers. I think it's a great after shower fragrance, and also for someone that doesn't like intense fragrances but loves the smell of citruses. So this is 4711, the original, going back to 1792, way back then. One of the very first creations in fragrances. Next, going forward about 200 years into the future from 1792, going to the house of SISLEY. This is Eau de Campagne, this one right here. One of the first unisex fragrances. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's the first fragrance from this house, created by Jean-Claude Ellena. If you like his style and don't know this one, you definitely need to get your nose on it. It is very aromatic. It is citrusy, also bitter and green with tomato leaves and basil, oakmoss, bergamot, and things like that. If you like the idea of a freshie like 4711, but you want some bitterness in there, some more substance, because the tomato leaves in here does have substance, then definitely try something like this. This is Eau de Campagne from 1976, created by Jean-Claude Ellena. I believe that's one of Jean-Claude Ellena's very first creations. Moving forward 4 years to 1980, going to a niche house from France when niche wasn't even a word yet. GOUTAL, Annick GOUTAL, currently it's called GOUTAL or GOUTAL Paris. This is Eau de Adrienne, launched in 1980. This is a fragrance that my dad wore in the 80s. I actually started wearing it in the late 90s. Really love the smell of this one. It's a tart, lemony fragrance, and it's astringent, sometimes sour. It's all citruses, but there is this kind of cypress note in here to add a bit of green, woody, aromatic touch. So Eau de Adrienne is definitely a staple here. It's a great fragrance from Annick GOUTAL, or GOUTAL Paris now, and definitely if you like the idea of lemons and fragrances, you should get your nose on it. This one going forward about 14 years later, I think it came, 1994. It's from the house of Calvin Klein when they launched a unisex fragrance. This is CK1, this one right here. Everybody knows CK1, and probably one of the most popular fragrances created by Alberto Morillo. And it's once again kind of a green, aromatic, citrusy fragrance, and it's definitely very unisex. The kind of notes they use in unisex fragrances are kind of gender neutral. For me, I classify floral notes as feminine notes and more masculine notes as aromatics and woods and spices and things like that. Again, there's no rules. Wear what you want when you want, but this fragrance to me is definitely very, very unisex. In fact, it might lean a little masculine as well. Again, lemons, green notes, aromatics. It's very fresh and herbal and green and citrusy. So this is CK1 from the house of Calvin Klein. That launched in 1994. All right, we're going forward to the 2000s now, and all the fragrances for the remainder of the list will be more modern fragrances. But at 2000, or in 2000, Frédéric Malle launched one of its first fragrances created by Maurice Roussel. It's Musk RAVAGEUR. So Musk RAVAGEUR, definitely very unisex. It's definitely musk, but it has become more gourmand as of late. Animalic touches have been removed. Again, it's musk with spices, some aromatics and resins and ambery touches. It has a bit of a holiday-ish vibe, and again, the animalics part of this fragrance does not exist anymore. For me, it's become more gourmand, ambery, and things like that, but it's still very, very delicious and definitely very unisex. So Musk RAVAGEUR from Frederic Malle is at, well, it's number 6, but we're doing this by year. Then we're going to the house of Comme des Garçons. And if you're a person that likes the idea of unisex fragrances, this is a designer house that you need to check out, because a lot of their fragrances, I feel like 95 to 99% of their fragrances are unisex targeted. But this is the most popular from this house, I feel like. This is Incense Avignon from the Incense series of fragrances from Comme des Garçons. So this one I discovered in the latter part of the 2000s, around 2007, mid part. And it's been a favorite of mine, although lately I feel like it's gotten a bit cold. It doesn't have a lot of warmth in it, and I used to wear a ton of it. It smells like church to me, and it's inspired by the Catholic Church smell. To me, I'm Christian Orthodox. I was raised Christian Orthodox. It reminds me of my church too. But it's lots of incense and resins and myrrh, olibanum, then woods and ambery touches as well. It's a very cold fragrance to me. It smells like a cold church after, you know, the incense has been, frankincense has been lit. So this is Incense Avignon from Comme des Garçons, and that is a fragrance from 2002. And then moving on to the house of Hermes, it says Un Jardin en Méditerranée, the very first fragrance in the collection of Jardin fragrances. Once again, created by Jean-Claude Helena. This is a fragrance launched in 2003. It's a fig fragrance. It's very fresh, inspired by different gardens around the world. It's got it's a big collection of fragrances now, but this is the first one, and it's my favorite in the bunch, with figs and cypress and cedar and juniper and citruses. It's breezy, it's airy, it's sweet and green. At the same time, I really love this one. This is Un Jardin en Méditerranée. This is from Hermes from 2003. Also, in the same year, from the house of Bulgari, this is a tea fragrance, not the very first tea fragrance, because they launched the first tea fragrance, I believe, in 1993 at Bulgari, created by Jean-Claude Helena once again. But I'm featuring the Blanc, Thé Blanc here, because I prefer it over the green tea. This is one from 2003, created by Jacques Cavalier, and I absolutely really love the way it smells. It's more of a cozy tea, also has a very fluffy muskiness about it, and a beautiful, just a beautiful, gorgeous wear, and I really enjoy this one, and definitely I feel like it's one of the best unisex fragrances. The tea fragrances are all unisex targeted, but along with all those notes I mentioned, there's definitely kind of a jasmine note here, peppery touches, and orange blossom, citruses, and other spices as well. Really beautiful fragrance. This is Thé Blanc from the house of Bulgari, a great fragrance for you guys to check out. And again, one of the best unisex fragrances of all time. It's been around for a while, although not as long as the Thé Vert. But for some reason, I don't enjoy the Thé Vert as much as I enjoyed Thé Blanc. Let me know your thoughts on Thé Vert versus Thé Blanc from Bulgari. As I said, the rest of the fragrances are going to be from the 2000s and on. This next fragrance is from 2003 once again, going to the house of L'Occitane en Provence. This is Vervain or Verbena, this one right here. And once again, it's a very fresh fragrance with the feature note of verbena. Lemon verbena is featured here very prominently. It's lemony, it's a bit astringent, but it's also herbal at the same time. So where's aromatic? But along with the lemon verbena, we've got geranium, petitgrain, lemons, oranges, and rose. It's very fresh. This is probably one of the most popular fragrances from L'Occitane en Provence. Very unisex, very summer fragrance, and it's great to kind of just wear and have a very refreshing time wearing it. So this is Vervain or Verbena from the house of L'Occitane, launched in 2003. Then moving on to the house of Kiehl's. I recommend this one all the time. Their only fragrance. And even though it was launched in 2004, and I believe what I read about this fragrance is that it used to be a fragrance way in the past, historically, with the brand Kiehl's, and they found a formula and things like that, and they recreated it here in 2004. So it could be much older, but definitely launched in 2004 in this format. This is Kiehl's Original Musk. And of course, it is a unisex offering and very musky. Some people consider this kind of on the animalic side, but I really think this is just a gorgeous, very sexy designer musk fragrance with musk, tonka, ylang ylang, patchouli, neroli, and some citruses and things like that. It wears beautifully. It's pretty sexy, but also a bit light, so you might need to, replenish the fragrance over and over again. But either way, it's a really great fragrance, a wonderful unisex fragrance, Original Musk from the house of Kiehl's. The only fragrance they currently sell, but moving on to another 2004 released fragrance, going to the house of Dior. It's Bois d'Argent, this one right here. I was going to feature another fragrance, but I feel like this one's definitely one of the most unisex offerings from this house for the Privé collection. It's been around forever as well, almost 20 years, and they've just rebranded it as well with some Francis Crichton created fragrances. But this is kind of an airy, ethereal iris and woods fragrance with resins and things like that, undertones of aromatics and leather. But for me, it's mostly about the powdery iris. Again, very airy and ethereal. I see like it's very flowy when you're wearing it, but it's got the resins and things like that. It's a gorgeous fragrance. If you like the idea of resins and iris together, definitely check this one out. It wears ambery, but it's Bois d'Argent from the house of Dior, a great offering from that house, a bit minimalistic as well, so if you're not into the idea of a fragrance that doesn't have substance, it might not work for you, but if you like those ethereal fragrances, definitely check that one out. But moving on to the house of eccentric molecules, in 2006, Molecule 1 was launched, and this is a very, very popular unisex offering. Many people seem to love it, to wear minimalistically on its own, or to use to boost up, prime up, a layer with other fragrances, and it does work, guys. You might be anosmic to this, you might smell nothing but alcohol, but give it some time and you'll start smelling the woods. It's mostly cedar wood, a bit of sandalwood in there. It's ISOE super, so it's a molecular synthetic note to create the smell of something that's very, very woody. It's used a lot in fragrances. You're probably familiar with it or just can't smell it, but it is here on its own as Eccentric Molecules Molecule 1. A wonderful unisex offering from Eccentric Molecules. That brand is one of my favorite brands. I like those minimalistic fragrances, and even though I love beast mode intense fragrances, there are times I really want minimalistic fragrances, and that is amazing, I think. But moving on to the next fragrance, in 2006, going to the house of Acqua di Parma in the Mediterranean collection of fragrances. This is Fico de Amalfi, a wonderful unisex offering. Fruity, green, aromatic, fresh, citrusy fragrance. It's utilizing figs. It's lots of figs. For me, this is... I'm looking at En Jardin on Mediterranean. You know, they kind of have similarities, but they're not identical. There are differences here. This is definitely the Acqua di Parma style, and it's mostly the fruits. It's got a sweetness, it's got a fruitiness, and of course there's some light green touches and aromatics and citruses in there as well. It's a great freshie from Acqua di Parma. This is Fico de Amalfi, launched in 2006. Up next, going to the house of Tom Ford, and I was deciding which one I'm going to feature here. I went with Tobacco Vanille. I think Tobacco Vanille is one of the most popular private blend collection fragrances from Tom Ford, and also one of the, more popular fragrances in general from Tom Ford. And it's also a kind of a very unisex offering. The vanilla creates more of a feminine vibe, the tobacco more of a masculine vibe. And even though I was thinking I'd use ombre leather here, I went with this one because I feel like it's definitely much more unisex. And launched in 2007, it features tobacco, vanilla, dried fruits, spices, cocoa, tonka, tobacco, blossom, woods. I love it. It's a great holiday vibe for me. I love wearing it on Thanksgiving. And to this day, it still smells great to me. It's Tobacco Vanille from Tom Ford. If you don't know that one, do check it out. Then going to the house of Creed, it's Virgin Island Water. This one right here, a very unisex offering, even though this is kind of in the male bottle. We've got two fragrances that are here that are kind of in the masculine collection but unisex targeted, and this to me is a very unisex offering with coconut, lime, bergamot, mandarin, some rum, sugar, musk, and some floral notes. It's very tropical, it's a bit boozy, very coconutty, it smells great, it's got coziness as well, and it is one of the best from the house of Creed. This is Virgin Island Water from Creed, launched in 2007. Then fast forward to the year 2009, this is from the house of Byredo. It's Bal d'Afrique, this one right here. So Bal d'Afrique is a great unisex vetiver, whereas some vetiver fragrances, most vetiver fragrances, might come off very masculine to men. I mean, not to men, to women, I should say. Women sometimes don't like vetiver. Some do. Some don't. A lot don't. But this one, to me, I feel like this vetiver is very, very unisex. It's got a very unisex vibe about it, and I think it's the fact that they've meshed it with the certain types of notes. And it tones down those earthy, woody characteristic of the vetiver note in here to make it very unisex. And I feel like this is a very popular fragrance also. It's unisex for sure because they use it in a lot of hotel products as well, and that's why I feel like it's definitely deserving here, because there are a few other Byredo fragrances that I could have featured here, but I feel like Bal d'Afrique is definitely one of the most unisex. And if you like the idea of vetiver, a very unisex vetiver with some citruses and aromatics and floral notes, definitely check out Bal d'Afrique from the house of Byredo. Launched in 2009, then launched in 2010. We're going to the house of Le Labo. It's another 13. No, I'm not going with Santal 33. I don't care for it that much. I love another 13, and I feel like it's a very unisex offering. It might even have some characteristics of the Molecule 1 because it's a very molecular fragrance. It's also very musky. It does feature the ISO E-Super, which is in Molecule 1, along with ambrette, some fruity notes, other musky notes, and molecular notes to create for a very sexy fragrance. I really love it. Again, this might be something you might be anosmic to it and not smell it. I've heard people comment, say, all I get is alcohol. I get nothing. I can't smell this fragrance. Give it some time. It is really, really great. Wear it. Have some friends wear it and have it, have it kind of blend in with their body and see if they perspire a little bit with that fragrance on what you smell, because what you'll smell, you'll think is very, very sexy. So anyway, another 13 from the house of Le Labo, one of the best from that house, and definitely very, very unisex. And here's that next fragrance I was talking about that was in a male collection of fragrances. We did the Virgin Island Water, which is in a male collection fragrance from Creed. Now Parfums de Marly's Wajan, it's in the male bottles. And it's a very unisex offering, I feel like, and a lot of women do wear this one and enjoy it. This is a very holiday vibe fragrance. Once again, we've got cinnamon, honey, tonka. There's benzoin, vanilla, and osmanthus. Very ambery. It's got some ambergris and some earthy notes and musk as well, but it, to me, smells like honey drizzled baklava. It's very delicious and very gourmand. Wajan from 2013, definitely a very unisex offering. Check that out if you don't know it. Going to the house of Jo Malone, and they've got a ton of unisex fragrances, but this one to me is one of the most unisex and also a crowd pleaser. This is Wood Sage and Sea Salt. Came out in 2014. I think it's 2014. It might be 2015. Sorry about the dates here. But I feel like it's a very popular fragrance. They sell quite a bit of it. This is one of their most popular. And I can smell the fact that the smell, to me, is very crowd pleaser. And people really would be drawn to this kind of a smell. It's sea salt, sage, grapefruit, ambrette, and some seaweed as well. Very light on the marine touches. It's very musky and aromatic and salty as well. So wood sage and sea salt, a great fragrance that's unisex from the house of Jo Malone. Then going to the house of Maison Margiela. This is By the Fireplace. Very unisex offering, if not a fragrance that might lean a bit feminine. It's definitely kind of on the gourmand side. It's sweet and ambery, a bit nutty with the chestnuts, balsamic with the ambery touches in here, and some spices to give you a really great holiday-ish vibe once again. Very warm and spicy and kind of cozy and comforting. This is By the Fireplace from Maison Margiela. One of the best unisex fragrances out there on the market currently. And then moving on to the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian with Baccarat Rouge. Again, this is a unisex offering. I'm going with the extract version here. Originally launched in 2015 with the original, the red bottle. The extrait version launched in 2017. But this is a very intoxicating and addicting smell of ambergris with ambroxan, woods, almonds, musk, jasmine, saffron. Super delicious, very long-lasting, gorgeous trail, very sexy trail. And again, it's very addicting. You really get addicted to the smell. I was not addicted to the smell, but I've told you guys the story. It grew on me and I got really addicted to the smell. But either way, Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Baccarat Rouge 540 is a great release from 2015. Also from 2015, the House of YSL's Le Vestiaire collection released a fragrance called Tuxedo. Sadly, I don't have my bottle. I don't know, it's gone missing for a while now. I need to dig it up. I don't know where it is. But I really love this fragrance in that it's got this kind of very interesting ozonic violet leaves note, along with patchouli, rose, and some ambery touches. The smell of this fragrance is really, really great, and I feel like it appeals to not only men and women. That's why it's considered a unisex offering. But along the way, there's some spices, some floral notes, and of course some vanillic touches as well. The entire combination is really intoxicating and gorgeous to smell, and very, very unisex. If you're a fan of Tuxedo, do let me know. It's from the YSL House Le Vestiaire collection, launched in 2015. All right, up next, going to the house of Aesop, or Aesop, I should say. It's another fragrance launched in 2015. This is Tacit. So Tacit, I feel like, is a very unisex fragrance from this house. All of them are unisex, but this one seems to be very, very popular, and it has great qualities that people consider crowd-pleasing. It's got vetiver, so there's very much a woody base here, but along the way, there's loads of basil, yuzu, citruses, and light spices of cloves. I feel like this is definitely one of the most popular from this house. They also have Huil, HWYL, but for me, this I consider very, very unisex, and definitely one of the best unisex fragrances out there from a skincare brand. So this is Aesop's Tacit. Let me know if you know this fragrance and if you're a fan of it. Moving on to the House of État Libre d'Orange. This is You or Someone Like You. Once again, a wonderful offering from this house. Very, very unisex and very refreshing. Very fresh with green notes, rosy touches, mintiness, some light fruitiness, and definitely muskiness. This is a great freshie to wear in the summertime. Go ahead and spray it all you want because it smells really, really great. And the mint in this is super, super authentic. So this is You or Someone Like You. One of the best unisex fragrances out there on the market, I feel like. And then we're going to end the list here with a fragrance from the house of Ralph Lauren, a unisex targeted release from a designer. This is Polo Earth, this one right here. So this goes back to the idea of something like 4711, but from a designer, or something like Mugler's Cologne, which is sadly discontinued now. That would have been on this list if it was still selling. But this, to me, again, kind of similar to Cologne from Mugler. Lots of citruses, the neroli, the orange blossom, the bergamot. Along the way, there's some other floral notes as well. There's petitgrain, and then there's woods and musk in the dry down. It's a great unisex offering. If you like Mugler Cologne, definitely check this one out. Really wonderful, I think. Now they have 3 more fragrances that have launched in this Polo Earth series. I'm looking forward to get my nose on them. I haven't seen them anywhere. But this one is the original launch last year. This is Polo Earth from Ralph Lauren. If you're a fan of that, do let me know. And that is the list for you guys. 25 best unisex fragrances of all time. This is my list. This is what I considered best. There's so many more out there, but I wanted to make sure these are kind of universally appreciated and also the ones that I really enjoy wearing. But if you have any other favorites, do let me know. Put a comment down below so I can find out. What I was trying to do was balance out the list with fragrances by designers that are launched as unisex, because generally they launch fragrances targeted for men and women, because they use in their ads a woman to represent a feminine fragrance, and then they also use a man to represent a masculine fragrance. So they do that, but I was trying to find a lot of unisex fragrances from designers that are specifically unisex targeted, and of course there are a few here, but loads of niche fragrances that are unisex. And in this list, I wanted to make sure I put the most important ones. Lastly, before I go, guys, this Scent Club kit number 6 is selling out. For some reason, you guys really, really love this kit over the last one. I'm trying to figure out what it is about this one that you like. Maybe it was a summer appropriate list, or a curated collection of fragrances, I should say. I've got a link in the info box. Make sure you take action and get your kits before we sell out. This one's going to sell out even before the last one. We still have some of the kit number 5 available as well, but I have links in the info box so you can find out all about them. Thanks so much for watching today. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. One more option for you guys. It's a brand new or somewhat new fragrance from the house of Diesel, and I wanted to highlight it because it's a unisex launched fragrance. This is Diesel's D, this one right here. Are you guys familiar with this one? So I bought this one just to see what it's all about. To me, it reminds me of a lot of other vanillic lavendery fragrances. In fact, a lot of vanillic lavendery fragrances that are targeted to men. And they've called this a unisex offering. So it's vanilla with lavender and ginger. It's not one of the best fragrances out there. It is selling though. It's on the market as a unisex offering from the house of Diesel, and I wanted to highlight it as a bonus option for you guys to check out. Again, it does remind me more of male releases. Not having a problem there. Male targeted releases, but in this case we've got a unisex offering. And in vanilla, I feel like kind of does lean feminine. Lavender kind of does lean masculine. And then we've got ginger here to kind of be in between those two notes. Anyway, I think it's pleasant. It's not anything groundbreaking, but definitely wanted to highlight Diesel D for you guys. This is a unisex offering, and that's the bonus fragrance. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for another video tomorrow. Have a good one. Goodbye.